Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. I think we'll get started in just a minute or so with hearing from Dave Manhart. I did just see a note that someone might be having a technical difficulty with audio. Please chat Danielle Patrick, who's on the line, and she is helping everyone with any connectivity issues related to WebEx. I will at this time welcome everyone just very quickly. My name is Hannah Clark. As you can see, there's some folks here from Michael Baker International. We've been working closely with Dave Manhart and Greg Adams, the South Whitehall Township's community development, and really are excited to be here this evening to kick off phase 4. So just a quick few things. We'll get into more of the mechanics of the meeting in a bit. But if you don't mind muting your video and your audio, we just want to make sure we have top-notch bandwidth. And if you have any questions, if you continue to experience any technical issues, please put it in the chat. And again, Danielle Patrick is available to directly work with you as well through the chat function. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dave to get us started.
Hello, I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Thank you everyone for attending our virtual kickoff meeting. Tonight we have a presentation set up as pretty much a informational meeting where we will be presenting the information. And if you have questions or comments, we can address them either afterwards or feel free to reach out to myself or Greg Adams tomorrow. We could certainly address comments, concerns, or questions. I'm going to do a quick kind of overview of where we are and how we got here, and then hand it over to Becky Bradley with the LVPC to kind of talk about their role in this phase of our comp plan update. And then we'll hand it over to Hannah to really go over the meeting mechanics. The way we kind of structured this meeting was, before COVID, we had grand ideas of using a school and classrooms and having the breakout sessions in these classrooms. So we're doing those breakout sessions virtually. So when it comes time to do the breakout sessions, we'll be having these different breakout rooms, and Hannah will certainly go over that when we get to that section of the meeting. So just to talk about how we got here and the process, we started in, I believe it was late summer 2019 with a kickoff meeting and some 3 existing conditions and guiding principle meetings. Those were held at Parkland High School. And then we moved into phase 2, which we call projections and build outs. Then moved on to scenarios where we did the How Should We Grow survey, kind of building up all of this public input into the subcommittees or working groups. And this is this area where the public really has a chance to express their concerns and recommendations for the comp plan moving forward. So phase 1, we talked about guiding principles. Those were the meetings that were held at Parkland High School with Tom Comita and Associates, where we developed guiding principles kind of around some main themes. We have resources, land use and development, facilities, and then looking at different smart growth techniques and coordination with other agencies. Then we moved into the Where Should We Grow, and this was the public participation section or phase where we had the maps, and we had 5 or 6 meetings scattered throughout the township where we asked participants to place projections. So the MPC says that we shall accommodate future growth. We looked at projections and asked participants to place dots on the map where they thought growth should occur. In addition, we gave each group 2 improvement stickers and 2 protection stickers. So what areas where would you want to see protected, or something within that hex or within that grid to be protected, or something that needed to be fixed? So those are the green and the orange dots. And then for phase 3, which we just wrapped up, was the How Should We Go survey, which was the visual preference survey. We had over 600 responses. When we looked at it statistically, we boiled it down to 580 residents for the statistically valid survey population. So that's really what we looked at when we analyzed the results of the survey. We're currently working on a document that will kind of summarize all of those results and present them. But I can kind of give a sneak peek at some of those results tonight. So for the green field, these are 4 images, 4 of the top images that were encouraged for development. There's descriptive text that goes with them. One of the themes that we found in the green field was open space. So most of the photograph descriptions had open space listed. On infill, so here's some images from the infill section, where we looked at, presented different images, and a lot of the themes that came out of it were, again, related to open space or common space. You can see in some of those images, and then also efficient use of the land with compact development. And then some of the redevelopment photos that were selected for encouragement. A lot of the redevelopment had to do with adaptive reuse. So that was a popular theme that came out of that section. So some of the images we see, PJs on Walbert, which we're all familiar with, is an example of some of that adaptive reuse. And then also within that is that common green space or that common open space. Again, another one of those themes that kind of ran through that whole section. So all of that information gets packaged. So we have all of this public information. So we have this big group of guiding principles. Where should we grow? How should we grow? So all of that information gets packaged and will be sent to our modelers. So we have a transportation traffic modeler doing kind of a high level analysis on traffic impacts. And then we also have an economic modeler that's looking at fiscal impacts of this development. So between the where and the how, we develop a scenario that gets plugged into those models. So all of this information, the where, how, and the impacts both on traffic and economic impacts, get kind of wrapped up into a package that gets handed down to the working groups. And the working groups use this information generated from public and then analyzed to make recommendations for the future comp plan. And tonight's meeting, we're introducing the concept of working groups, introducing the topic areas, and a bunch of volunteers for these working groups so that we can have productive interaction and develop these recommendations for the new comp plan. And then also within the working groups, we have LVPC. We asked LVPC to provide subject matter expertise for each of these groups. They have a understanding from the regional perspective and also years of planning experience. So they have access to and understand the planner's toolbox. You've probably heard, I've used that term a few times. So they'll be providing recommendations and things to consider within these working groups as we move forward with the working groups. With that, I'll hand it over to Becky to kind of introduce LVPC.
Thanks everybody. Hello, I'm Becky Bradley, and I'm the Executive Director at the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. The LVPC, for those that don't know us, is the official planning commission for Lehigh and Northampton counties, and we coordinate and collaborate with local governments like South Whitehall to ensure that the quality of life in the region, our economy, all the things that make our community function remain high. The LVPC writes, maintains, and implements Future LV, the regional plan, which is the region's comprehensive plan. And we're here to collaborate with you this evening and then going into the spring to make sure that we have consistency, collaboration, and a nice partnership between the work of South Whitehall and the work of the Bi-County Planning Commission. And that helps us keep a great region great and even make it better. So this year we celebrate our 60th anniversary, which we believe is a testament to our commitment to the region. And I just really wanted to quickly introduce the subject matter experts from our team that are going to be with us this evening. I have Matt Assad, our managing editor, Tracy Yoskovich, our director of development, Jeff Reese, the director of environmental planning and all things water, Samantha Smith, our chief community planner, Jillian Seitz, our senior community planner, Teresa Mackey, our senior environmental planner, and Sue Rockwell, also a senior environmental planner. So you'll get to meet them a little bit later. So first, you got to begin with fact-based optimism. Understanding what's happening now and what we can accurately and reasonably predict for tomorrow, next year, next decade, and beyond. And that's really what Dave outlined for the township and how you have moved forward through the planning process so far. So just to give you some context on what's happening as South Whitehall Township relates to the region as a whole, the Lehigh Valley, as you probably surmised, is one of the fastest growing regions in the state. And we have projected a 24% population increase by the year 2045. The growth is largely driven by migration of people into the region as more workers and families are attracted to our location for its natural resources, its historic character, our high quality of life, and even our convenient location. As the region grows, the demographics are shifting. So people older than 65 have seen the most significant increase recently as our population ages, while children and young adults under 20 are expected to increase as a growing number of families move into our community. So South Whitehall Township, no different than the rest of the region, it's also growing. In fact, 19,778 people live in the township compared to 19,047 people only 10 years ago. So at the current rate of growth in the township, if that continues, we predict a 30.91% population increase to as much as 25,891 people by 2045. And that again is if current trends continue. So the Lehigh Valley has been growing more diverse as well, particularly over the past 3 decades. The minority population increased from being about 8% in 1990 to being 18% in 2017. And the Hispanic, Black, Native American populations each doubled between 2000 and 2010. South Whitehall has also become more diverse. This percentage of those who identify as only white and no other race decreased from 87% to 80% over the last 10 years, as the relative proportion of those who identify as Black, Hispanic, Asian, or Latino in particularly have steadily increased. So employment in the Lehigh Valley, different, that's increased as well. It's increased by we had predicted it'll increase by 17% by 2045. Many of the region's fastest growing occupations are in healthcare, manufacturing, warehousing, recreation, and technical and professional service industries. Our close proximity to New York City, the Philadelphia metros, has made the Lehigh Valley the fastest growing freight corridor in the nation, with over 29.8 million square feet of new industrial space approved by local governments in the last 5 years. You similarly have seen the pressure of that type of growth. While that's helped increase the gross domestic product of the Lehigh Valley to more than $40 billion a year, which, by the way, is larger than the state of Alaska's gross domestic product, also New Hampshire's. So housing demand, that increases with population, with employment as well. So even during the pandemic, and South Whitehall Township has seen a jump in the median price of a home go from $211,500 in 2016 to $279,750 last year. That constitutes a 32.3% increase in 4 years. These changes pose just as many challenges as opportunities, especially around resource protection, community facilities, community utilities, housing and transportation that we'll talk about this evening. The LVPC, as the County Planning Commission, recognizes the growth pressure and has developed a new series of goals, policies, and actions to support and maintain the region's quality of life and to bring balance to the development conversation. South Whitehall, through its update of the comprehensive plan, is really aiming to achieve the same. So in order to achieve those visions and goals, in the next slide, we have to design what we need rather simply than just replicating what exists. And those are working, and you're working on those things right now as part of the comp plan update. So you're trying to update plan by utilizing a series of strategies and partnerships that recognize that we all need to rise to the challenge of the 2020s and beyond. And that means we need, again, to design what we need rather than simply replicating what exists. So the Pennsylvania Municipalities Code, or the MPC, is the state enabling legislation or law that outlines the parameters for comprehensive plans. So that is, again, everything from planning to subdivision and land development in the Commonwealth. Everything we do as a county or as South Whitehall is a local government under those subject areas is bound by the provisions of that law. Each of the subject matters being discussed tonight in this evening's meeting are required by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, or MPC, to be included in comprehensive plans. Public participation is also required, and you have an expanded process. And that's critical to a township with such development pressure like yours. Everyone from residents that are living in the township to business owners that are invested there to even people working in those businesses are stakeholders and owners in the process. And that's codified as being required as part of the comprehensive planning process. That's how we developed Future LV, the regional plan. And I'm really excited to see that that's how South Whitehall Township is developing its comprehensive plan as well. If you don't do these things, you really don't provide equitable representation of the subject matters or the stakeholders in the community, and you don't comply with the state law for plans. So the township should be commended for the robust and inclusive community engagement process to date. So when we look at the region from a county perspective, just to give you an idea of how we think about these things and how we can build relationships with you, we really have our regional plan organized around these 9 themes. Balance is an obvious one, where development patterns are changing. There's less available land. There's more pressure for development. So how do you balance that growth with your land use? Mobility, moving people and goods, but also the technology that goes along with that and the communications infrastructure that's only risen in importance during the pandemic. Resiliency is critical. Last year alone, out of Tropical Storm Isaias, we saw over a handful of bridges destroyed in an afternoon by just the increased rates of water flowing through our waterways that undermined a series of bridge structures, especially north of South Whitehall Township. Equity, that's an obvious one as well. Everything from housing costs increasing to new jobs far from population centers to education factor into that. And what type of community and access to equity and equitable places do we want to make? Don't need to say much about health during a pandemic and why that's so important. But our culture underpins some of those health behaviors. And in a connected world, social, economic, technological, and even political changes can have huge effects on a community's identity. So local culture can be strengthened through the comprehensive planning process in investing in the township's values, the region's values, the intersection of those with that sense of place becomes important to the entire conversation. How do you pay for all the things that you want to do too? Some of that's through government, some of that's through the private sector, nonprofit sector, and quasi-governmental sector, like through educational institutions. So what's available to do the things that you're thinking about as part of this planning effort? How can you leverage those resources into the outcomes that you'd like to develop? And then technology, again, what can I say about that? We need faster internet. We need more energy, especially as every major vehicle manufacturer in the world has declared that they're going alternative fuels in the next 10 to 15 years. So we'll even be powering our vehicles differently in a short amount of time. What does that mean? And then obviously governance. And governance happens in a whole series of ways at a whole series of levels. So resources are tight. People don't want taxes to raise. Generations are aging into new roles, and technology, again, is radically changing how things get done. So increasing the capacity and adaptability of governance will be key to meeting the future challenges faced by everyone, including South Whitehall Township. So I'll turn that back over to our friends at South Whitehall, because we're going to talk about what this means. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. So I'm actually going to jump in here so we can get started and really get going with the evening, which is really centered on learning more about those 5 topics that Dave introduced and that Becky expanded upon. So since we all are pretty used to the virtual meeting, but what we're doing in this space is we're trying to recreate that opportunity to break out, meet with the subject matter experts, and then come back together at the end to learn about the next step. So just some quick mechanics. We do ask that your microphones stay muted. Just to ensure that we can have top quality bandwidth, if you are able to mute your video, please do so. And the chat function, both in this main room and in all the breakout rooms, is enabled, so you can put any concerns, questions there. You may have gotten here tonight by an agenda that you clicked on Join the Main Meeting, and it took you to this WebEx. So that is a guide that you have. All the breakout rooms are hyperlinked on that agenda, but we also have included links to all breakout rooms at the very top of the chat. So if you are looking at the chat box or you open the chat, you will scroll to the top and see how you can navigate to one of the 5 breakout rooms when we hit that section. And then we're going to be having an opportunity to participate in live polling, which we're going to test out in just a moment. So if you are on your computer or your smartphone, please open up an extra browser and go to www.menti.com. Don't worry, that will show up again. And if you are experiencing any issues, we have our WebEx with Danielle Patrick with us this evening. She's available via the chat. I put her email here. So with that, please, I'm going to move us to menti.com. So put this into your browser, and we're just going to try out this technology very quickly. So please, when the code shows up, menti.com should guide you to put in this 8-digit code. Please do so and fill out the prompts. And hopefully we'll see some action coming up in the next few seconds. Like I said, just follow the instructions, go to menti.com. Great. Oh, I think We have some mint fans and chocolate chip. I'm in that boat. Perfect. Awesome. So, and this will keep growing. So if you didn't get a chance to add it in, add it in. So this is going to be a technology we're going to use in the breakouts too, because we want to get a sense of where folks are at. You've been in this process. You've gone through three phases. How are we going to inform the working group? So now, maybe a question that will take a little more thinking and capture your opinions. Going to menti.com, putting in this code, you should already have it up there. You're getting prompted, what is one word you would use to describe South Whitehall Township today? And we'll just build this out for a moment. Great, so diverse right in the middle. And please know that we will be capturing these and sharing them out. So these will be things that we'll keep and will inform the process as we move forward. Great. So we'll give folks 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to take us. All right, so thank you so much for participating. I'm going to move us back to the presentation so you can get on to the breakout rooms ASAP. But thank you so much for participating in this, and know that we're going to be utilizing this in the breakout rooms as well. So now to go back quickly to our presentation. And so as you heard from Becky and Dave, we have the breakout session topics. This was introduced in the agenda, and you can see there's various subject matter experts in each area. One thing we want to highlight is that the best part about tonight is you don't only have to go to one session. You can go up to 3 different topics. So we really encourage you, if your number one thing is housing, maybe put that as your second or third choice so you can explore some other topics. The same presentations will be happening 3 different times over the next hour as you circulate through these breakout sessions. So I'm going to now review how you will exit this main meeting room and go to your first breakout session. So again, if you're using a hyperlinked agenda, you should see this column on your agenda, and you will be able to click the topic that you want to go to. You will have to leave this meeting. So when you click that, you'll be transported to a new meeting. If you don't have the agenda in front of you, just go to the chat box, scroll all the way up, and you'll see all these links available at the top of the chat. And you have about 5 minutes to do this. So if you have questions or something's not making sense or you can't access something, please put a question into the chat here and we can troubleshoot with you. But at this time, I think we'll hear some parting words maybe from Dave, and then we'll join you in the breakout session. But thank you for being here, and really excited to get started.
Yeah, one thing, excuse me, I don't think we really mentioned is the meetings being recorded, and all of the breakout sessions will be recorded as well. Everything will be posted online. So for those that couldn't make this meeting or couldn't stay for the whole thing, the opportunity will be there for watching videos of the different breakout sessions. So if you really wanted to go to all 5, the videos will be posted, and you'll have that opportunity to sit in that session after we get it posted online. Hannah, I'm not seeing the links in the chat. There they are. And just like that, boom.
They returned.
Magic.
Okay. They were at the top of the chat, so our apologies. Sincere apologies for that. But now you can just look at the chat. You'll see the topic, and then there'll be a blue hyperlink below, and that will take you straight to the topic that you are ready to discuss first. And our breakout rooms are open, so if you want to start moving on to the breakout rooms, we'll give you a few minutes to get there. And if you have any questions, continue to put them in the chat. This main meeting room, Danielle will be here, so if you have any questions and you want to speak with her directly, she is here and she is awesome at WebEx and troubleshooting. So we're excited and we'll see you in the breakout.